We're back, guys, with another installment of the Thanedd Coup expansion or overview. We're going to be talking about the new cards for Skellige, Monsters, Syndicate, and Neutral today. I have Ezra from Team Legacy as well with me today. And so let's get started on Skellige. The expansion drops Tuesday morning, and I'm super excited. I want to make sure I get this video out as soon as possible so you guys have a chance to look at all the cards and maybe get some inspiration as to which ones to craft following this video. So to start off, we have a legendary from Skellige. It's called Melusine or Melusine. We'll figure out how everybody likes to say that one in a day or so. But this card has Veil, and on order it spawns Rain on an enemy row for 2 turns, then damage self by 2. At the end of your turn, damage adjacent units by 1, then gain 1 base power for every unit damaged. If any unit damaged was a cultist, refresh the order. So that's kind of interesting. What do you think?
Very powerful. The card art is amazing for one. Like, this is probably the first card I'm making premium.
It's probably going to be a pretty sick premium, to be honest. So we're spawning Rain for 2 turns, and we're damaging self by 2. So we're dealing 4 damage, but we're taking 2 damage. At the end of our turn, damage adjacent units by 1. So we're damaging adjacent units by 1. That's giving them, assuming that there's anything there, but we kind of want there to be something there. Okay, so we're dealing 4, we're taking 4, and then we're getting base power as a result.
So technically she's essentially just playing for her base value, in a sense, because you're dealing 4, but then taking 2, and then you're also dealing damage to the left and to the right. So she's essentially just playing for her base value on the card. But
so this is just ensuring that we continue to get Rain on their side of the board. That's, from my understanding, that's the purpose of this card.
Yes, it's just basically to continuously deal Rain, because like not only are you getting base power back for every unit that you're damaging, to the left and to the right of her, you're also getting the order refresh. But what I noticed too, that a lot of the guys on the team pointed out, was we all know that Sigdra's Ride doesn't have any specific provision limit currently that we know of. Like, obviously, it brings back any Skellige unit summons it back. This card is technically considered carryover, because as long as we're continuously dealing damages to the adjacent units, she's getting her base power increased, and that's just carryover for next round.
I see. And so then you can have this big point slam of, let's see, increase base power by 1 for every unit damaged. You can get this card up to, what, 16, 18?
Yeah.
Some crazy number up in that range.
As long as that order keeps refreshing, then yes, it could totally happen.
So, yeah, it's the initial part of it's not super impressive. But then when you get to, like, that carryover threat, that's kind of big, actually.
Yeah, like, that's what I'm excited about, was, like, Skellige doesn't really have carryover in that sense.
However,
like, we don't really have cards that, like, can come back besides, like, Arnagat or something like that, or just boats.
Yeah, but I do have to say, though, it makes that infamous squirrel tech a lot more juicy. You know what I mean? A lot more powerful when you have the potential to ban a 20-point card that they plan on bringing back, right? So you don't even need to put a heat wave on something like this.
Yeah, like I said, but for what carryover wise, we had messengers and we had Crow Mother, right? I think that was about it. So this is like technically our 3rd carryover card for Skellige. I'm a huge Skellige main, so I'm excited to see this.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to work, because it doesn't look like something that you need to heat wave, is what I'm trying to say. If you're running a non-devotion deck, you have the ability to just squirrel it. With a lot of carryover cards becoming a thing, maybe we see an actual play of Xavier. It's hard to say, but I think that this is definitely going to be interesting. I think that for 10 provisions, it's something worth trying in the deck. And having tried, playing the Rain archetype and getting all that sort of stuff done, I did realize that it's a very challenging, task to get a lot of Rain spawned quickly. So this looks like something that's going to help kind of expedite that and get it done a lot quicker. So yeah, I'm not going to rule this one out just yet. I think that's going to be pretty cool. Moving on to offering to this, yeah, offering to the sea. This is going to be, I guess, a support to the rain damage archetype as well. We have damage all units on the battlefield by 1, then spawn a deafening siren on a random allied row, and boost it by the number of allied targets. So what do you think of that one so far?
Galaga just basically got the what is that card that Northern Realms has? The Inferno card, Sabrina's Inferno. Is that what it's called?
That's on a row, is it not?
No, I think that's the entire board. Because remember, it says damages all units on the board that are
Oh, Inferno, yeah.
non-specters.
Yeah, that's right.
That's basically what this is, except we're getting a boost out of it for every allied unit that takes damage. So, like again, it's all supporting the self-wound archetype. Skellig is known for, wound, damage themselves and gain some sort of positive benefit from it. There's a lot of self-wound cards for this archetype to really shine. You could technically even use this card as a way to trigger, like, Veldkarl or Olaf or whatever.
100%.
There's a lot of ways that this card could be used, and it's not really a negative towards you because you're gaining points back.
I could see this being thrown in decks that aren't really conventionally, supporting something like this, like Lippy, for example. Because they have sometimes the boats with armor that when they lose the armor, they're gaining, a couple points. They have, when they're making a bunch of copies, they want to be able to obviously bring out the Shield Maidens. This might provoke people to start playing the ranged version of Cirrus again, just because it's going to be easy to be able to damage your own units. You have, again, the Veldkarls, you've got the Blue Boy Lugos. Like, there's a lot of cards that give a positive return on damaging. When we look at other cards with Berserk features, right, this is going to help trigger a lot of those Berserk cards that weren't really being played before. So that's pretty interesting.
Precisely, yep.
And 7 provision seems to be, a decent way to have it set up right now. I'm not really worried about this being overtuned because we are dealing, a lot of damage to ourselves, and this card does require a lot of setup, right? If we don't have the right deck, built for this, or if we don't have the right sequence on the board, whether it be by our row or, just how we're setting it up in general, this might not be great. It has to be done in a long round, I think, to get a lot of value from it. So, really cool.
I like the arts. Like I said, Skellig looks like they got the favorable arts, at least for their gold, in my opinion.
Looks a little different than the typical Gwent art, but
these look like portraits or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
in a museum.
I guess they wanted to make each set have its own sort of unique theme to it. You know what I mean? Because all the cards between the sets we've talked about so far seem consistent, like within the, Thanedd Coup. But again, Price of Pyre art's much different than Way of the Witcher, which is much different than Crimson's Curse. So, interesting. So next we have, oh gosh, how do we say that one? Half-Fru Singer?
Yeah, Half-Fru Singer.
There you go. So deploy heal an ally unit by 2. The first time you heal a unit during your turn, spawn a deafening siren on this row. Okay, so it's just meant to support, I guess, the swarm.
In a sense, yeah. I mean, I don't know if this card's going to be that great. I mean, it is basically an 8 for 5.
Well, here's the thing. Off the bat...
But it is a unit.
Yeah, off the bat, we're getting heal an ally unit by 2. And the first time we do it, during your turn, spawn a different time. So, automatically, we're getting 8 for 5. Right?
Not bad. It's not bad.
Which puts it in the category of, like, a lot of other competitive cards right now. We're seeing 8 for 5s generally a return that most people are happy with. Now, the additional potential that this gives, the tokens that you're spawning are beasts. So you can look at something that has to do with like the beast archetype, right? I believe there's a couple cards that have been underplayed that are whether boosting for all the beasts that we have or something of that sort. We also have the widespread alchemy cards that can just help maybe boost like a golden froth, for example, that we're getting just quick boosts out on multiple units. Maybe we see like just the wide swarm cards like we have like the bone talisman, stuff like that, if you can get enough of them out there. So it's
let's not kid ourselves. It's for the elder bears. That's all this card is for.
You think so?
Elder bears, raging bears. That's all it's for.
I'd like to be able to see just a bit more than that. Otherwise, it's just, I mean, you might just see people play it for what it is, 8 points, 5 provisions, and carry on, right? So, yeah. And if you play this with Battle Trance, it's not half bad. If you're playing it with Get a Myth, you have the Druid tag to help proc the scenario. You've got the heal that comes from the passive ability of your leader whenever we play an alchemy card. So it's not too difficult to get that 2 points per turn, just if we're continuing to play alchemy cards throughout the rounds. So yeah, I wouldn't rule this one out. I think it's an alright card. I don't think it's a game changer, but I think it's decent. There's, I would say, bigger threats to worry about with Skellige than something like that, but if we neglect it, maybe this gets a lot of value throughout the round. And then we have one here. So it's Hermit. Human, Cultist, Druid. It's got a lot of tags on it. On deploy, damage self by 4. Berserk 6 at the end of your turn, damage a unit to the right by 1, then heal self by 2. So
it's kind of like a priest and a armored Drakkar built into one, in a sense.
I see that.
Or even like a greatsword, like a mini greatsword.
Here's the thing, though. We're obviously going to be damaging something beside this that doesn't need to be like it has armor or it has a positive effect damaging it, right? Like there's some synergy going on between these two cards off the bat. This one is capped at 7, right? However,
yes,
we do have the ability to trigger the effects of the unit adjacent to it even after it's healed. So, we can look at damaging, again, the blue boy or the tokens if we're playing something like Herald or the Drakars or the turtle, right? Like, there's a lot of different cards that you can just stick right beside it. It's kind of a little bit safer, I would say, and a little bit more cost-effective than having a priest. The problem with the priest is that everybody wants to run them, but after one turn it's got that awkward 5 power, which puts it in perfect removal from, pretty much any faction has a 5-point removal card. So it's about getting those to stick, whereas this one here, it appears as a little bit less of a threat at first, and it's just healing itself. And, it's not the end of the day because it's 4 provisions, right?
Right.
I think
and it doesn't have, like I say, it has a ceiling compared to Priest, which can literally go all around.
Exactly. So people might say, you know what, I'm happy with letting that sit there for 7 points, and then they don't realize maybe some of the other impact it would have had on the game.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, most likely you're gonna want to play this next to like some kind of self-damage engine, like Drakkar, Turtle.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways you could play this card. But from just by looking at it, you basically would. You almost would rather run Priest instead, just because that you don't have to worry about it stopping at 7.
Yeah, I suppose what you're saying. This does have more synergy if you're looking to keep, a lot of things damaged on your side of the board, because it's healing, right? So it's going to be in the red a bit longer. So when we look at things like, if someone wanted to maybe put in a location just to kind of have the option to use like a Bear Witcher mentor or, just something like that really benefits from the Bloodthirst or just damaged enemies in general. Arnagod would be, something I'm thinking of when I look at these cards being played, right? So there's a lot of cool stuff like that that is all kind of coming together. I'd be curious to see how it is, and I think that these cards just seem like they're all worth crafting.
Right.
because if you're interested in playing that type of play style, switching it up from the regular discard Skellige or Warriors or whatever you've been playing for the last 6 months, you're probably going to need all these ones at least to try it out. So, I know you said there's some big things coming from Monsters.
Yes.
All right, take it
Massive
off.
things coming from
Take it off here,
Monsters.
man. Let's see.
So we got the very first. Well, I wouldn't say very first. I'd say one of the more iconic characters for Monsters that everybody's been wanting since the whole Fruits of Yizgith was a thing in this game. We got Bloody Mistress. At the end of your turns, spawn Gurnishore Fruit on both sides of this unit and transform into Gurnishore. Also, this is a Sabbath requirement. So what Gurnishore does is, at the end of your turn, transform itself into Bloody Mistress. So it's basically transforming itself back and forth at the end of each of your turns. At the end of your turn, boost self by 1 for each allied Gurnishore Fruit instead. So, this is a very scary engine. This card can play for a ton of points, especially if it's consistently spawning the fruits on Bloody Mistress's side at the end of her turns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing bad about this card that you could say. Maybe the fruits are the weakness, but the fact that this card can consistently change and avoid any type of poison or it can be locked, yes, so it wouldn't transform. But
Is there
I just
ever
like the fact that this card has such huge point potential.
is there ever a time that people replace Kashi for this?
I don't think so. I think
So you think it's going
honestly,
to be
with the way that they
its own separate thing, maybe using the Gurney leader?
yeah, I would think so. People are definitely going to want to try to play Gurnishor's Fruit because that's one extra Gurney fruit on the board. So that basically makes this card 10 for 10 right on its transform.
I can
If
see
those
that.
3 fruits can stick. You could probably even run a Darn with this list, honestly.
A
Just
Darn
create
would
even
be
more of a-
massive.
Yeah.
A Darn's a thing. You could consider looking at Caranthir as well. Maybe getting 2 rounds out of the whole play.
Yeah, 2 Caranthers on this, or 2 of these cards on this board. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine the point slam potential? It's easily got a 2-0.
Well, Monsters has no shortage of Thrive engines,
Exactly.
Especially with Larva being out of common removal range off the get-go, it's a little bit awkward to remove the Larva. They're just going to stick. We have the fruits that we can just keep bringing back from the leader if we lose that one, and this is making more. It's a bit of a threat, right?
Yeah, this is a scary card if you let it stick.
Now, the problem with Gurney, and one of the reasons why a lot of people aren't playing fruits right now, is that the provision allowance is not, consistent with maybe some of the other leader abilities that are available. So having potentially overtuned cards like this one here might make that leader ability viable again, just so that they can make better use of the provisions that they have. So I'm not sure if it's going to be super tier 1 or whatever the case, but I definitely think that it's certainly going to make the deck playable and competitive, right?
Yes,
It could just be every single person we place playing this. Who knows? We'll find out. But, I like. So far, I'm not super upset about something like this. For example.
yeah, it's there's nothing negative about this card. The only thing that may be negative is the fact that Gurney's fruits are coming down with essentially 1 base power. That's about it, and it just refreshes it every turn anyway.
Yeah. Now, obviously, one of the worst enemies of this kind of play is, something like Nilfgaard Spies that we talked about having a lot of buffs, right, to the deck. So, board management is going to be tricky with the Swarm. And you might see that being a very unfavored matchup if they can cram enough spies on the side of the board and there's not enough space for Thrive tokens, right? Let's see how the other cards sort of work with this. We have Mamuna. It's a relic. It has Zeal. On order, banish a bronze unit from your graveyard and boost health by its power. then summon a copy of it from your deck to this row.
The scariest card for monsters.
Sabbath, you play a copy instead.
Yeah.
That
so essentially,
is
this card
hideous.
with Griffin, this card is 11 for 10, right off the bat, and then if you have Sabbath enabled, that's another 9. So it's basically a 20-point card.
It's huge. I was thinking more along the lines of using a relic for it, right? Whether it's the pigs or it's the
You have Gancian
Gancian
as well. If you're willing to get it up that high, I mean,
yeah,
Griffin and Gancian, they're both 9s.
Well, here's the thing: you play one for round 1, and you know it's getting 9 points if you put it between 2 different relics. So you have the ability to get this to 11 off the get-go. And then if we have Sabbath, which is going to be very easy to get because this card's already worth 11, right? You play this obviously 3rd or 4th into the round, and then you're able to play another copy, and so then we just put another one down. So it's playing, again, for 20 points for 10 provisions, which is super overtuned.
Now, see, if you were to have a relic pocket secured before this card comes down, so not only are you getting the 9 points from the Gancian or the Griffin for its 11 value, but if it's a Gancian and you have the relic pocket already established, that's another 4 points. So it's technically worth 24 if you set it up that way.
11 plus 9.
Yeah.
11 plus 9.
You have to factor in the fact that Gancian gets 4 base power for every adjacent relic, remember? Or 2 base power for every adjacent relic.
Yeah, but it starts at 7, correct? No, it starts at 5.
Yeah. So then let's say you play a first round, it goes to 9, and then if you have another relic pocket set up early on, you play this card, and then it comes back down as a 9.
No, but we're basically from your deck to this row. So we're playing one from our deck.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you're getting essentially the 11 off the get-go from this card, and then you're getting the extra 9 from deck. So it's 20 points for 10 provisions. That's one of the most busted cards I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Just because it's so easy to put into just about anything you feel like playing, and it's not very expensive. So interesting. You could just use this for Thrive if you're just doing strictly Thrive. You could use it in the whole She Who Knows Sabbath deck. You could use it as just a big point swing in potentially like a Keltulis deck or anything like that. You could maybe even cram this into like a Death Wish deck, just to have, something come back. Like you look at the relic tag, right? So we have one of the succubuses that we could bring back, you know what I mean, and just have the extra sort of rotation of that. There's a lot of different things going on with this, and I think it's going to be seen in just about whatever people can imagine, right?
Yeah, so like this deck has, or these cards for this expansion could make the Kashi deck even better, or they can have their own identity and be a full-on relic deck.
Exactly.
Which is something that we know we wouldn't have had before.
And when you're starting to kind of put them all together, you're thinking, well, maybe it's not going to fit into like a, maybe the She Who Knows deck that's out right now is going to need some revisions if they wanted to make it like a full-blown relic deck. But there's certainly options here. You might even see maybe gravitating towards a devotion version of it, right? Because now we have some cards that could take place of maybe some of the removal options if you're looking to get a bit greedier, right? Take out the Heat Wave for the Mistress, take out Mamuna, or put in Mamuna and just try to rework some of the other cards. So that's pretty cool. Next card we have a rare. It's a Self-Eater. Oh my gosh, look at the art for that one.
Yeah. And Evades was from Team Leviathan was able to actually reveal this card on stream the other day.
Oh, this is the one that he got. Okay.
Yes, this is the card that Evades.
If you guys don't know Evades, check him out on YouTube as well. I did a video with him a couple months back. We did a deck guide, so he makes tons of great stuff too. Order half this unit's base power, then spawn a copy of the same base power on this row. So you're basically going to be duplicating this card.
Yes, it's basically a mini ethereal larva engine.
It's a mini. Okay, so it's turning this one card with 6 power into 2 cards with 3, and then whenever
And
I
then,
play a relic, increase the base power by 1. So it's just going to be engineing this one card.
yes, so this is a card. If you don't draw your larvas and run one, this is a card that can carry you. It's kind of like the Whisperer too from Qcento. They just came out with a lot with this most recent expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, in a sense, yes, it's a very threatening card if you let it survive. And the fact that it's gonna keep spawning, it's 3 power base copy. It's very scary. This card can, you know, even potentially, in a sense, be used with Mamuna as well, because I believe if it's I don't know. It depends. I mean, if you don't have any other targets, this is a good card.
Yeah, that would have to be like engine for some time. What I like about this, opposed to worrying about like the larvas, is that it doesn't have thrive, so it just has the same sort of effect as what we've seen with some of the other relic cards increasing base power when we play relics. So it really synergizes with that whole thing. It maybe kind of puts us in a position where we could start thinking about just going full-blown relic opposed to having like a relic and thrive hybrid that we've been seeing. So this card I think is pretty good.
Yeah, like I said, all these cards are going to be amazing with Qcento. Qcento is going to be a busted card.
And here's the thing, like, let's say even if this splits in half, we have 2 3-piece, they kill one on the responding turn, we still have one out there, right?
Yeah, but it's like I said, it's like the ethereal weakness. If you answer the copy that actually has the order, then the card's dead.
Well, it's not necessarily dead because it still like gains base power. So if they kill the second one, at least it can work itself back up to 6.
Exactly. I'm referring to the fact that like the spawning engine aspect of it would be dead, not the entire card.
That's understood. That makes sense. The return of ethereal would be something bad, I think.
Yeah.
That was just ridiculous. That was probably one of the most unhealthy metas I've played. So, Bleeding Effigy is going to be the next one to wrap up monsters for the set of cards we have here. Banish a bronze unit from your opponent's graveyard, then boost an allied unit by its power. Wow. If you control Bloody Mistress or Gurnachora, you may target gold units.
It's like a more terrible squirrel.
Or terrible squirrel. I see potential.
Oh, but the fact the squirrel doesn't get the boost.
Well, squirrel just gets the 4 base power and that's that, but this has a larger ceiling, no? More than often we're going to be controlling these, so theoretically
we could target something with like high base power, like
I'm looking at this like
even
the potential of a 4 provision Oz rule.
Yeah, but like I said, that you're giving a allied unit a very high ceiling. In the fact that like, okay, so if you banish a gold, right? Let's say you banish the scoundrel, or not the scoundrel. Oh, we won't get into that part, but one of the newer syndicate cards that has high base power. Yeah, you're getting a gold banished from their graveyard, but you're giving a card plus 10, plus 12. Like, that's just prime heatwave material.
I mean, maybe we see the time where it's like one of those things where if you're pushing on red round 1, you want to get that
this card
heatwave,
could be great.
Then you're trading up. Because you put this out and you boost, let's say, a token or something awkward. If they heatwave it, so be it. It has no additional impact on our play. We just got out a really tall removal for only 4 provisions. However, if we do have card advantage, we're going into round 3 and we want to play this as a finisher, it could then see that big Osral type play. This will do exceptionally well in maybe, the monster mirror match, or you mentioned that Syndicate might have some strong base power coming. I know a couple cards that already have strong, tall base power with Syndicate. Particularly, maybe it gives this matchup between monsters and Skellige a bit more of a fighting chance with all the great swords and stuff like that. So, again, I think that this is really cool. And you know me, I like to try stuff like cards like this particularly, so I'm kind of excited about it. But again, it seems like one of those ones that might not always play for, great points, but I think we can pretty well at least get 6 out of it, on average. 6 or 7 for 4 is kind of maybe one of those things. And it's a really good tech against decks like Lippy too, or something that has carryover. Interesting. And you're not breaking devotion for it.
Yeah, like I said, it's true. I mean, it has a good ceiling if it banishes something with high power, like like a great sword, or the Ganseon in the mirror. Like if a Ganseon is able to be used multiple times with like teleportation or whatnot.
What I like about it too is it's an organic card, right?
And it's also really good too with AQ.
Yeah, it's good with AQ, but I also see maybe this being sort of moved into like a vampire deck, right? We saw some new cards come out for that, and again, the problem with vampires I found was it certainly has points, but it doesn't have like those immediate answers and some of those immediate control aspects that we need to make it work. This is really great because we get to banish something that's going to be super important, and we can also boost one of our units as well to keep them on the board. And a lot of people are using the Unseen Elder because it's just a very strong card, but when they're using Qcento for it gets kind of awkward because then you have one sitting there at 1 base power. So this is a good way to kind of like bring up those cards that are a little bit weaker that you want to have on the board for longer. So interesting.
All right,
we have Syndicate coming up next, and that's going to round up the factions. Then we have a couple neutral cards. I think there's only 2 this time around, so we'll get to it here. The Scoundrel, you mentioned this one here, so what do you have? What is it?
Big card. Very big card.
It looks like a big card.
Yeah, 12 base power for 10 provisions. I mean, it looks very good on paper. Deploy summon the top bronze unit from your opponent's deck to the opposite row, then place a bounty on it. Tribute 2. Choose a bronze unit to summon instead, then place a bounty on it. So what that is signifying right there off of the tribute effect is you're able to look into your opponent's deck and pick the bronze unit you want to pull out. That's huge. So this card has deck seeing potential, and then being able to like disrupt into your opponent's bronze engines. And then fee 1, damage the enemy unit with bounty by 1. So like you could basically instantly kill it too right away.
So tell me something.
Enough coins in the bank.
Why is something like this 10 provisions, but you have Old Spear Tip that's 12 base power, and isn't it 13? No, it's 12 provisions. No, yeah, it's 12 provisions now. They gave it the buff, but again, it does nothing. It's 12 for 12.
Right.
This is 12 for 10 plus, the actual bounty that we're giving, plus the fact that it's a spender.
Yep.
Is that fair? When Syndicate right now is overtuned and all the complaints have been coming from, Syndicate's too strong, you don't even have to play well to win. It has too many good cards, even with the slight nerfs to it, with Horse and Junior in the last month, and Professor with the provision nerf.
Even with all the tunes that it has and all the answers that Syndicate brings to the table, I don't know if you'll be able to run it in your jackpot or your line pockets list without giving up something crucial that was normally there. So if you would have wanted to run this in your line pocket or jackpots list, you would have to give up Professor, Bank, Philippa, just to throw this in. You have to take out something huge. I don't know if you ever take out Horse, and he's just really good as well.
Well, we're looking at 10 provision change that we have to make here, right? It could be
Yeah.
as simple as maybe saying, okay, listen, we don't necessarily need Philippa anymore because we just want to destroy everything they have anyways. You know, if you're running the version with Cleaver, Tunnel Drill, Horse and Horse and Freak Show, Professor, you have so many different ways to give bounties and kill units. You can go full pledge bounty now, maybe giving Graydon some play, right? You know, this
Yeah, like
again.
it sets up a lot of other cards. It may just only play for its base value. Some of the guys on the team are saying that it's probably just going to be a 12 for 10. It may not be something special, but I mean, the fact that you can pull a bronze unit out and hope that it does like an order engine or something like that, it's kind of nice. I mean, it if you think about it, and in my opinion, I think like if this were to, I don't know, if it pulls out a Blight Maker, then you deny your opponent 11 points later on.
100%, or you know, maybe
or disrupt their
Fin package or whatever the case may be.
yeah, like you can you could basically mess with their deck if you pull out their Fin package.
So if we're looking at like one idea that I have off the bat, remember how we talked about where was the one? This one here. Right, putting the card back in deck. This could essentially just take that out again and we can kill it. You know, if they've accrued any sort of patience and, you know, something has a lot of carryover value for later, we can just drag that out and kill that. So, a little scary. If you think about maybe that Northern Realms tech that people might have, this is like a perfect counter to that. But I'd be interested to see how it pans out. I think just the fact that it's 12 base and gives bounty, even if it doesn't kill, even if it's not, you know, the most ideal spender, let's say if we have Tunnel Drill out there or anything like that, it's still strong. It still gives up, you know, it's still doing the purpose of 2 cards, right? It's a point slam and it's giving bounty. So I think that it serves its purpose and it gets its value as far as provisions and some.
I agree.
Yeah,
like it has the potential to be like a professor too, because it's putting a bounty and then you can just spend a bunch of points to kill it. But like, let's say you pull a tortoise or a griffin, you know, like or whatever. It's something with high base power that's going to give you a lot of coins in return. Like that's kind of big.
It's almost better than Professor, no? Because Professor's 4 base power, 12 provision.
6 base power.
Professor.
Yeah, Professor.
Oh yeah, it's 6 now. It's 6 now. Yeah, it's 6. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was getting confused. So 6 and deals 4.
And then get potentially 4 coins back, depending on whatever it is that was killed.
Yeah.
Most of the time, Professor plays for 14 because it's answering a 4.
It does, and this could play for. Let's say we give bounty to a 4P, and then we kill it, and we get the 4 coin back. I mean, yeah, it's a contender with Professor at that point.
Yeah.
But it's less expensive. So next we have the Ignatus Hail.
This just got revealed this morning, I believe, and it's already on the site, which is nice.
Good.
Um,
We got to wrap this video up
Damage
because tomorrow's the expansion day, so it's good that we finally got it out here. Go ahead.
damage this unit by its tribute cost. Tribute 9, cancel the deployability whenever you place a bounty on an enemy unit. Reduce this unit's tribute cost by 1. So we all know for the fact that you cannot put multiple bounties on the same unit or on different units. So I guess every time you're placing a bounty, no matter how you're doing it, this card's tribute cost is going down, which is just fine. It's kind of like a procession of penance for the Firesworn list, but with, I guess, not as much of a difficulty in terms of placing bounties, because if you run this with Witchfinder or even like some 4P Slanders or even, you know, Caleb, whatever, this card could potentially see value in a good like short little round bleed, because like it's kind of like you're just reducing its damage potential or self-damage potential to itself.
When I look at something like this, I think, okay, Syndicate's going to come out strong in round 1. and they're going to try and take that round by any means necessary, playing bounties. They're probably going to bleed round 2, as much as they can to get all these statuses out there. If they're running 2 of them, then round 3 could just be a short round 3, and they'll have, just a couple of these they'll slam down, and I'll have to pay trib on them. 24 points in 2 turns. You know what else is really scary about this, though? It's a gold card, right?
Yeah, it's not a bronze.
Okay, thankfully.
It's an epic. So it's.
I was looking at the border. I'm like,
is
that gold? Yeah, no, that was looking scary for a Megascope for a second, but
yeah, like it has the potential to be very good, but I mean, you have to place 9 bounties throughout the game. That's kind of hard to do, depending on when this card is being played. Let's just say you don't have a lot of bounty cards to begin with, or you just don't draw them. Well, then the card sucks, because then it's going to damage itself by whatever it should be costing, and it may not be better than its position.
I wonder if there's any other way to bring this out of your deck.
Summoning?
Yeah,
I don't think so. Not that I know of. The Syndicate, I could be wrong. I have to.
What about Earplex?
Could, but it's a 6.
It is. It's kind of awkward. It's like in the middle.
Yeah, and you would most likely pull something higher than that.
Yeah, this is true. So it's something you gotta play. But I do think it's certainly possible to pull off. Worst case scenario, maybe you get it to the point where you're attributing 3 or so, you know what I mean? Which is not too bad. You're spending a little bit.
Correct. Like I said, it's one of those double-edged sword cards, you know?
I'm thinking that it's one of those cards that you try and pull off 1. But maybe 2 is a little bit greedy.
Yeah, like I said, it's a weird card. Just because of how many times you'd have to set up the bounty you'd have to set up the bounty 9 times for it to get its full value. That seems like a challenge in itself.
We'll just stack the row of 12s. Bring back the Igni.
Yeah.
Next we have Confession Extractor. I'm excited because this is a crime card, and I've really been hoping for a day that Gourd crimes only without all the other crazy syndicate nonsense will work. Like a unitless SY would be awesome for me. Let's see here. So we have Profit by 5. While in the graveyard, damage an enemy unit by 1 whenever you place a bounty on it. That's huge. Counter of 3. So it's going to work 3 times.
It's an 8 for 5.
It's
essentially.
It's an 8 for 5. And with the extra potential of obviously helping bring down those things that have bounties a little bit easier, right? And not having to spend at the time. So that's really cool. It makes our coin management a little bit better.
It essentially also gives you a lot of targets. Let's say if you wanted to run that Vigilantes deck that people were trying to run, where they played Igor and Vigilantes and copied a bunch of them, and then just simply one bounty, and they had like an army of Vigilantes, sniping their cards. This could help, and it'd be even more pressure because it's damaging from the graveyard, something that's never really been done before in the game.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a whole new way to look at things, and I think it's fair because, it's in your graveyard and it only has a counter of 3. I think it was really nice that they put the counter on this card, otherwise it might be a big problem, right? The fact that you have this card working the full game would just be ridiculous. This could potentially see a replacement for Payday in some instances, or another 5-point crime that we've seen, right? Maybe even replace Eavesdrop if you're not worried about deck consistency, but you want the profit. It's sort of in that same price range. So I definitely see a reason for this being played, and I think it's going to be played in pretty much every Syndicate deck that's running crimes, simply because it just looks like a good card, right? And then
exactly. It has the potential to be very good.
especially since that it is a bronze. We could run 2 of them.
There's nothing bad about this card unless you're not playing bounties.
You know. Yeah, like I mean,
Yeah.
even if you have Hysterias to set up, those are damage and bounties. You got, Slanders, your Witch Hunters. I don't know if you'd want to run those if they're just too slow. I mean, you have Witchfinder.
Yeah,
That's huge with Witchfinder.
exactly. Like I said, if you're playing bounties, it's good. If not, then there's no reason to play it. But it looks pretty cool, and I'm excited to try that one out. I'm hoping that the premium actually moves up and down, like the clamp that it has.
Yeah, that'd be pretty neat.
Yeah, but we'll find out tomorrow. So, and then we have
Yes, sir.
Scapegoat, which is a human on deploy. If there's no bounty on the battlefield, damage self by 3. Whenever an enemy unit with bounty is damaged, heal self by 1. So
Very
that's
crappy card.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you say about this card? There's nothing.
You already know what someone's gonna do with this card.
Yeah, I mean, it's most likely Megascope to territory.
Megascope territory, portal territory.
Exactly. Yeah, like
They'll use it
you're
for
never
more
gonna
as
want
a-
to play this on deploy.
If there's no bounty, damage self by 3. I mean, it shouldn't be difficult to get bounty on the board. The problem is, when you have bounty on the board, you want to just kind of focus on taking out the unit that has bounty. So to stop and say,
Right.
hey, well, hold up, let me play 7 points, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I mean, it's a 4/4, and it's a 4/4 with a conditional
Yeah,
effect. Like there has to be a bounty on the battlefield, and if it's like it's forcing you to leave your bounty on the battlefield, just so this card can get healed up by 3 points, instead of you trying to actually profit off of the bounty.
well, hold up. I mean, if there's no bounty on the battlefield, damage self by 3. So if there is a bounty on the battlefield, it just sits for 7 points.
Yes.
It keeps its base power, and that's fine. I just don't think it's like, for 4 provisions, like Syndicate's got a little bit more comfortable options. You know what I mean? If they're running
Exactly.
Devotion, like Mutants Maker, it's just like, you're getting the coin back, you're putting it into your spenders. There's a lot of different cards that are just a little bit better, in my opinion, in the 4 provision range. Not to say there's a lot of good 4 provisions for Syndicate, because I don't think there is, but I wouldn't take like a Sea Jackal spot and put this in there, or a Mutants Maker spot and put this in there. There's a lot of good 4 provision crime cards for Syndicate as well, like the Swindles, and I think Smuggle got a
Dip in the Pontars.
Dip the Pontar, right? So, someone's gonna do it. I just don't know if it's really worth doing, but at the end of the day, 4 provision common card's not gonna cost a lot of scrap to make. Like 30 scraps? So, it's worth just crafting.
Yeah, like, you're most likely gonna want to do this just to complete your collection.
I'm kind of glad seeing
I
a card
don't-
like this though, because like they have a lot of good stuff coming, and they already have a very strong, fleshed out, faction of cards. So they didn't really need a lot with this expansion, if anything at all. But a couple new cards to rotate in and out keeps it interesting. Out of the 4, I'm obviously most excited about Confession Extractor, and I think Scoundrel's going to be busted. I think it's going to find some use. So these 2 are probably, the ones I'm looking most forward to out of the 4.
Yeah, like I mean, it's. I don't know what to say about it. Like the art looks cool. Don't get me wrong. Like when I saw this card get leaked, or not leaked. Yeah, when we got it leaked during the Open, right? I believe is what it was, or the Masters. I can't remember. Which event it was, and they showed the Scapegoat and the Elven Seer. Like that was pretty cool. Like I was like, oh okay, this is gonna look like some cool art. And we already knew instantly where Elven Seer was. It was gonna be for Qcento.
Yeah.
We just didn't know what Scapegoat was going to be. Was it going to be for monsters or was it going to be for Syndicate? And we know it's now for Syndicate, and it kind of let us down with the effect that they decided to give it. Because I mean, the art is very nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. Like, I'm sure that this will find a way to see some play. I'm thinking it's more going to be the summon or, whatever. But that's that. It's just a common card, so I don't expect a whole lot more. We have a couple neutrals here. This is the one that was just revealed. The epic card, it's going to be Verification and being a spell. That's a funny artwork.
Yeah.
Is the chair a
This
bear,
card
or
is
is the bear sitting on the chair?
no. The chair is the bear.
The chair is the bear. Transform an artifact into an elder bear. If it's on your side of the battlefield, boost by 4.
Yup. We have Bomb Heaver back, everybody.
What on earth?
Oh, I saw this card and I was freaking out. I was like, no way. Bomb Heaver is back.
That's crazy, because you could play it to an artifact that you don't need anymore.
It doesn't even have to be your artifact. It says an artifact. It doesn't say your artifact.
Transform an artifact into elder bear. So basically you're taking their scenario and you're turning it into a bear. Done. Or,
Yes.
if it's on your side of the battlefield, boost it by 4. So what we could do is, let's say we have a totem that has resilience. We don't need the totem anymore. We could transform it. Right?
Yep.
And
it's
boost
basically
it.
worth 10%. It's basically worth 10 for 6.
Yeah, and the ceiling's that much higher. Let's say we're playing against Masquerade Ball.
I'm okay with giving them a 6-point card and getting rid of their ball. Heck yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's a little, it's not as valuable as, let's say, Bomb Heaver would be if it was the same status that it had in today's meta, because everyone now is running artifacts. Whereas before, Bomb Heaver was kind of like, again, a double-edged sword, because you'd have it into your deck. It'd be 5 provisions, but some people weren't running scenario, and there weren't really any other artifacts that we'd be seeing, that are staying on the board. But now we have like those resilience artifacts, we have the locations, we have megascopes, all these types of things. Bomb Heaver in its old state in today's meta would just be ridiculous. This card has a little bit more of a condition. It gives them a card back, and it's 6 provisions instead of 5. Do I think this is fair? I don't think this is going to be a big super threat.
It's a meme. Just because it's a meme, but it has good potential meme. Like Melee set in allied scenario. So like, what it's also really nice too is like, let's just say you don't have that. That second proc for ball, then this technically could just skip it and just say, all right, well, we can just give you 1 proc.
Yeah.
It could also set it backwards too. Let's just say you have an extra aristocrat that's not going to do anything, like a dame or a lock. Well, this could technically give you 3 procs for ball.
How does it give you 3 procs?
We're talking about the One Avenger, right? Or are we talking about verification?
Oh, you just moved right on. Okay, let's have
I thought we were. I'm sorry. I thought we were.
Deploy melee set and allied units scenarios in a final chapter.
I'm sorry.
Deploy range. Refresh the order of an allied unit or allied location. Yeah, so this is going to be one of those things where if you play with the location, I mean, best case scenario, you have something like Kadoosh, where you're putting the extra healing by 2 aside. It puts this card at 8 for 5. Otherwise, you have kind of some locations that don't really have the best. I mean, maybe you use this with Nilfgaard.
Like I said,
that would actually be kind of scary too if this is used with Nilfgaard for this reason only.
But it also forces you to run a neutral in Northern Nilfgaard, which is known heavily for wanting to run devotion.
Yeah. But if you're playing one of those just annoying decks, the one of those ones where you're just messing with their deck.
Yeah, what's scary about this card too is that it could potentially give cloggers. It gave cloggers a buff.
That's what I'm saying. Something like that would just be bad. Right, refresh the
Imagine putting
location.
two.
You're clawing it back. If at all you decide you wanted to play one of those cards, you have the ability to just canta into something like that. So, um, it's scary. But set now a scenario to the final chapter. I don't see that being that great because if you're doing this, why wouldn't you just run more of the archetype that's going to be proccing your scenario? Right? If you're finding there's a problem with getting the right, type to actually to proc it, you got to throw more in, right? Whether it's just an
Well,
extra
it's not.
one or
It's
two.
not a matter of fact of throwing it in. It's just say if you don't draw it. Let's say you have a cupbearer and only one aristocrat. Well, then yeah, I guess you're missing out on a potential poison by not being able to proc final ball or chapter of ball. So I guess this could help for free. Um, I don't know. It's just weird. Like there
Yeah.
isn't really too many seconds chapter scenarios that you would want to run, except in my opinion, Siege. Siege is probably going to be really huge with this card if you decide to run it in this, because being able to replay a bombardment if you have a ton of siege engines on the board, that's kind of busted. Or could get a lot of value for that.
Set it to the final chapter. So
It would refresh if you played your scenario already.
okay. So that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're refreshing just the last chapter, or you're just refreshing the last bit of the location. So, Siege looks good. Passiflora is interesting if you're looking to get, maybe another
Seductress.
Sly Seductress, because I know there is another clause with the it's Adriano that they just added, right? Where there's like a profit for additional Sly Seductresses, but I think that's again heading into the meme category. Interesting
Actually,
card.
this card is good meme. That's all I gotta say.
They're good memes, and they, people probably asked for it, so they delivered. I'd be
But yeah,
interested.
so let's go
just
back to
try these.
verification. Just so I didn't feel like I thought we had already moved on, so I apologize for that. But we were talking about like what are the benefits of verification besides removing the scenario aspect, or even a location aspect.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty much it, really. If it just helps us use maybe scenarios that are sitting there for nothing, especially if board management might be a problem, and it helps us, basically take their scenario and just get rid of it. So that's pretty cool.
Like I said, it's a good card.
It allows us
You
to
know,
keep the
people-
heat wave for something other than an artifact.
Exactly. So I mean, it's not like our heat wave will play for 0 points, but essentially, it is a 0 point card if it answers a scenario. Because I mean, there are some times where people throw out the scenarios and they don't even have a way to proc it. Very rarely, and we just wasted our heat wave.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
They're all like, especially since also locations now have resilience. Armory, we have totem, we have the locations. We have, but like, other than that, like sometimes they're just taking up a slot on your board, and sometimes when you're running a deck that has the potential to like take up a lot of space, then that one slot may be nice to have to turn into just some good points that you could probably use to 2-0 if they decide to pass early, if you're trying to bleed them or whatever.
100%.
I don't know. Like, there's nothing bad about this card. It has the potential to do really good.
100%. And we're getting to the 1 hour point here, so I'm glad that we had the opportunity to go through all the cards. This expansion drops tomorrow, the Thanedd Coup, second part of the Price of Power expansion. You guys can buy the cards if you're not feeling like crafting them, but they're all going to be available, I guess, be 6 a.m. Eastern time. The don't know what time that is overseas, but I'm going to be putting together a couple decks over the next week, things that I've found to be working on the ladder, and I'll definitely want to share that with you guys, so stay tuned for that. Was there anything else you wanted to add before we sign off, Ez, or?
I saw something too that you just scrolled up to, and I didn't see that till just now.
What's that?
Up a little higher, there is something that it would be very nice for people who own the expansion pass. This expansion, you're getting a card back.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for that. Yeah, it's something to consider. I might wait until they actually just sell it. It's going to be some time, but I definitely want to see what that is and get that. And I like the nighttime boards. This kind of looks like it's from Thronebreaker, isn't it?
Maybe.
Like one of the ripped villages. It kind of has that look to it. I'm a big collector of card backs, you guys know that, and game boards. So eventually you'll see me get these ones here, guys. But that's pretty cool. So we'll get this one uploaded for you guys just so you can kind of hear our perspectives, maybe get some ideas of what you guys want to craft over the next couple of days, and we'll see you soon.